Welcome to E39 Source. Today we're working on a 2002 E46 330xi. I just drove this car home from getting a window regulator repaired at the dealer where I bought it 2 weeks ago. I made a sharp right turn and this is what happened to my wipers. The motors have been screwed up for a little while, so now I have a serious excuse to replace it with the part that I believe is arriving today. Because that, as hilarious as it is unacceptable. We are home. I just pulled in the driveway. I took the stress off the new Bosch wiper blades I just put on here and I pulled them apart. So I've got some garage space now to be able to work with. My new wiper motor is inside. It was delivered today, thank God. Originally I've been waiting for the cowl and the alarm system to install that. However, that isn't going to work out. I need a motor on here today. I don't even know if it's going to work now. So you're going to be among the first to see. Okay, they do still work as they did before, and you'll see how well that is. That motor, the arm on the right, has just loads of play in it. So this video is going to be going over the replacement of the linkage, the motor, all of that. We're gonna have to take the arms off, we're gonna have to take the cowl apart, probably some stuff up under the hood. I've never done this and I have not looked at any DIYs. I think I'm just gonna go into it and figure it out. So I'll teach you how. First steps first, I did go ahead and pop the hood and release it here. I would imagine we're gonna need to be getting in there soon. My first step up here though, I think is just gonna be to remove this arm. Not necessarily because that's the bad one, but because it looks like I can easily remove that. Further diagnosing, you can see how much play is in that when the wipers are in their off position. I mean, it's just all over the place. As we can see right here, there's a little cap on that, and there's probably a lip around there somewhere. So we're gonna pop that cap off with the flat blade. That will reveal a nut. We'll remove the nut, and then I'm gonna guess the arm's just gonna come right off. Popping off those two caps reveals two 15mm bolts, which come off fairly easily. So you should have two caps, two 15mm bolts. Then under the hood, there's three little things you turn quarter of a turn counterclockwise, which will remove the little door that goes over your cabin air filter. Here's your cabin air filter, here is the little door. So those two things are gone. I've been unable to figure out how to get the blades off yet, and I definitely need to do that, or the arms, excuse me. So I'm going to run inside and do a little Google search, and then we're going to get these arms off of here. Then our cowl should pop right up, and hopefully we'll be greeted with the wiper motor. So I had to reference a couple of things online. I was able to get this arm off. Once you have the cap and the nut off, people say, oh, just wiggle it back and forth, then it'll come out. Not the case with me. I will show you a little better on this side right here, in the center. This piece here is a bit of a retainer, and the idea is you have to get that up and out of there before the arm will then come off of the stud, like that. So this is the piece you've got to work with. If you take it and wiggle it and it pops right out, awesome. It's going to save you a headache. If it doesn't, you know, carefully take a flat blade, as thin of a flat blade as you can, and kind of wedge it in between the wiper arm and then this retainer piece until it starts to wiggle out. And then you can take the arm and wiggle it and lift the whole thing off like this. So now we have both arms off, both little retainers, the caps, the nuts, the filter lid, and then I just peeled off this little piece of weather stripping, which was located right here. I don't know if I'm gonna need to do that, but I might as well do the same thing over here. It just lifts right off like that. At least it'll give me some more room. The cowl is now held in with just a bunch of retaining clips. I'm not worried about damaging this since I have a new one in the mail. This one's a piece of junk, and I was waiting until my new cowl showed up to do this job, but that's not gonna happen because my wipers are crap and fell apart today. So now we get to wiggle this out of here, the old cowl, which I will show you the clips. Look like that. And they just snap right into below the windshield here, I guess in the frame of the car. So there's what that looks like. Now we have both of our studs where the wiper arm lives, and it does not look like it's going to be a lot of fun to get in there, especially on this side. So from this point, we're going to take off the housing for the cabin air filter. Looks Looks like we're losing pieces of the cowl, but the cabin air filter housing appears to be held on with some Torx bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4 at least. So I'll start taking those out. I'll let you know what size that is and we'll work from there. T30, Torx 30 is the size you want. There's 4 of those. We're gonna take those out, then this whole thing's pretty loose. On the front side of that, we have this, which clips in like that on each side. It's got some wires in there. I don't know what they're for. One looks like the wire for the positive battery terminal. So we're just gonna disconnect that, let it hang here free. Then I'm gonna start to peel off this trim right here. It comes off like the other piece I showed you. There's another piece here. Looks like it's got a bit of a lower lip on it. And then I think that's just gonna lift right out. It's surprisingly heavy. So we're gonna put that cabin air filter housing out of the way. And I guess we don't really need to remove this piece of trim right here. So you can push that back into place. Now, let's see, what's next? More fun. Looks like we're gonna have to remove this little part of the firewall right here, I would guess. Although that goes down quite a bit. I'll do some research, I'll let you guys know. Alrighty, that piece of the firewall wasn't actually too bad. There were 2 more T30s, one in the top left, one in the top right, and then similar to the 3 little tabs that hold on the door to the cabin air box filter, there is one of those on the right side, right by your brake booster there. So release all of those, and you'll be able to lift up and out that piece of the firewall that had the previous 4 T30s for the filter housing. Now that that is out of the way, we can definitely see our linkage and broken parts for the wiper motor. So we're gonna have to figure out now how that's gonna come apart on this side of things, and then eventually poke down down in there. Probably 3 hours have passed since I've last filmed. Don't worry, yours shouldn't be this bad. This car is an 02 330xi with 214,500 miles on it. And I'm sure this is the original motor. Anyways, once you get the arms off and this piece off the firewall, you're gonna find that there are 3 points holding the old motor in there. There's one here for the driver's side wiper arm. There's one in the center for, we'll call it the center wiper arm. And then back here in the hole, there is a 10mm bolt. And it goes up this way. It's upside down. You can fit a 10mm socket with a 3/8 ratchet back there to undo it. I'm looking for my new motor, which is over here, and I'll show you how that works. The electrical connector is really easy. Obviously that just gets unplugged. So I'm gonna set this up here similar to how it would go. I'll show you those 3 points again. 1 for the wiper arm, 2 for the wiper arm, and then 3, it's this kind of hole right there. That just kind of stabilizes it in there so it doesn't torque. And this is that 10mm nut with the big washer on it that goes up like this and then threads into a hole back there. So, we know how this comes apart, 10mm socket and a ratchet. Over here, this is the new motor, but it's the same idea. You're going to remove from the old motor, of course. This, it's kind of a mix between a washer and a nut. It's a 24mm. I was able to break this one free over here with just a pair of vice grips and a swift yank. This one over here, however, has taken the last 3 hours. I've broken my vice grips on it, and I ended up going over to Lowe's and buying a Dremel and cutting it off. So I now have a Dremel 4200 and a nice cutting kit, and I just sliced the thing right off and it popped out. I'll show you the old parts. I totally destroyed the linkage on it. I even went and bought a deep well 24mm socket and a breaker bar right here. This was my original setup. That didn't work. I put a 4-foot piece of steel pipe on this thing and it just sheared that off the bottom of it. I think somebody welded that damn bolt on there. But anyways, if it's like your car should be able to come off easily. Anyhow, once that's done, we can move on to an installation of the new motor, which is just going to be tucking it back in the hole, pointing this wiper arm post up through this hole, this one through that hole, replacing the 10mm nut, plugging it in, and then reinstalling everything we removed from the engine bay. These are my old parts, which I heaved out into my driveway out of anger. This thing was totally broken. This is what we snapped off. That hole's supposed to be a square. This is what I had trouble with, and I had to cut it off. And it sheared right there. And then this is the rest of the motor. This side looks fine. there was not a problem there. But everything over here is just totally shot and broken. I mean, the actual motor is probably good. It's just the linkage that is destroyed. Well, guys, this really is not a fun job, even if all goes well. It's doable, it's just a pain. So, order of operations. You're gonna have your motor on the bottom. Then you're gonna have your cowl. Then you have these two washers that have a metal washer and some rubbery kind of material around them. Those go flat side up this way, rubber side down into the painted cowl on both sides. Then you have those little nut/washers that I had to cut, the 24 mil. Use a deep socket. It's the only way you're gonna be able to get good torque on that. I have lost more tools in this engine than I've used on it. Here is what I used. Deep well 24 6-point half drive. Get a good one and tighten those down. So those are what you see. Then you get to lay on your inline 6 and look up in here. And let's see if I can see it. Right here, right there. That's that 10mm bolt. Get that tight. The best tool that I've found for that is a little 1/4-inch drive ratchet. Chances are you don't have one of those. If you do, use it. And then a 10mm socket. That's what fits back in there best. Make that thing tight. Also, plug in your wiring harness for your motor. Don't forget that. Then test it. If it's quiet and it doesn't look like it's moving around and the posts turn, then you're probably good to go with bolting things back up. I'm going to put the arms on there right now and make sure all of that works before I put back together the engine bay. To put the arms back on there, obviously you've got to pick up your arms, slide it on there, then we're going to put in this thing again and go from there. Everything goes back together as you'd expect. Start with the firewall, move on to the cowl, the rest of the trim like that. Putting the wiper blades on, you probably tested if your motor worked by pulling down the stock in there. If both screws turned, then you simply line up your wiper arms, reinstall that little hexagonal bit in there, and then the 15mm nut followed by the cap. But before you tighten everything down, get in the car and run the wipers a few times. Make sure they're going to their full range of motion. Maybe you can see on the glass, one time I had them only coming up to here, and then they'd go down too far. So you want to assure that you have them following the correct path, if you will. Making sure that it comes all the way over here and they both park themselves in a good home position, as I'm going to call it. And that would be they're both down in the black part of the windshield, out of sight, out of mind. Before I did this job, the one over here was way up here. So now it's a lot tighter. In fact, it may be down too far. I'd say it is. It's hitting into the cowl there. So when I replace the cowl, in a future video, I will move that up. So I went ahead and adjusted this wiper arm over here. You're probably going to end up doing it a few times. It's just a matter of, you know, this black plastic cap, the 15mm bolt, and then that thing that wedges down in there. Before you test it, make sure that it is semi-tightened up. I know that's going to be a pain when you have to go and untighten it and break it free again. But if you don't, then the post will just turn independently from the arm and then it gets all screwed up. So this is about where I have it parked. I had some issues reinstalling the cowl. This old piece of crap, it doesn't seem to want to clip down in place all the way, and it's leaving far too much of a gap. I'm not going to worry about that right now because I have a new one that'll be here within the week, and I'll probably just do a separate video on replacing the entire plastic cowl here. So my new one, I will figure out how to put that in a little bit better. But they work really well. There's no more play, no more than normal anyways. They're both really tight, and I've got the range of motion correct. So a successful job. If you don't run into the troubles that I did with that bolt not coming off, it shouldn't take you more than an hour, maybe an hour and a half. With that bolt having that issue as such as I did, it took about 5 hours, but now it works. So that's going to be it for the windshield wiper motor replacement. Maybe you can tell car looks pretty decent. It did sit out in the rain overnight, but I buffed the whole car last night in the garage with Zano ZPC as a compound. Didn't do nearly the quality job I would on my M5, but I just wanted to get through some crap on the clear coat, so I cleaned it up and buffed over everything, and it helped a lot, but it's no show car. Not supposed to be, just a daily car that works. So Thanks guys for watching. Plenty more videos on the way. I got all your feedback for sure about wanting more E46 DIYs, and trust me, they're coming. So we'll talk soon.